Good evening, members. Good evening, officers. Welcome along to our Cabinet meeting this evening. We have 13 items on the agenda in order to get through. First of all, apologies for absence. We will be a full house. Councillor McGowan is running slightly late, but he will be joining us a little bit later on for his agenda item. So everybody will be present and correct. Do we have agenda item number 2, any declarations of interest? I'll take the Essex County Councillors. We'll include Councillor McGowan in that as well. Any other member with any other items? No, very good. Okay, the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 13th of February. They're on pages 7 to 12. Are there any matters arising from the minutes from any member? No, very good. We agreed that they are a true record. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. That is unanimous. Agenda item 4 are Cabinet member decision records. So there have been 2 decision records, one from the Cabinet Member for Environment and Leisure, the other has been from you, Councillor Brown. Yeah, anything you want to say on those? No, very happy. Okay, any member have any item on the CMDRs? Leader of the Opposition? Councillor Baggott.
Purely just to let you know that the feeling of residents with regard to the imposition of charges both to high streets and also parks, specifically in Billericay, are not welcomed. The general view is that it will actually add to the problems that retail is suffering in the high streets and will be preventative for people actually coming and using the facilities in Billericay. And certainly the park run, which has always been a very successful and community-based event in Billericay, is now considered, they're considering cancelling it as a result of these charges, and that is an impact that will continue to roll through communities.
Thank you, Councillor Baggott. Agenda item number 5 is the Cabinet Work Programme, which is on pages 19 to 21. Does any member have anything they wish to add to this? No, in which case I would like to add some items to the Cabinet Work Programme. So I would like to add the following. I would like to add a expenditure control panel policy to the agenda. The private landlord licensing model to the agenda. I would like a retail and commercial lease strategy brought to Cabinet. I would like the football hub development brought to Cabinet. I would like a review into Sempra brought to Cabinet. I would like us to establish through policy a housing improvement board. I would like the Wickford Police Station Community Hub to be brought to Cabinet, and I would like a report on youth zones to be brought to Cabinet as well. I would like the Cabinet members to liaise with your various ADs about the timings of those, but I would like to see them this side of the summer so that we can begin getting all of those things in order for the new municipal year. I'd also like to say at this point that I'm wanting to commission 2 task and finish reviews that will be politically proportionate. The first task and finish review that I would like to commission is into HR policies and practices, and the second into workforce. So I would like those 2 things to be noted, and we will write out following this meeting to group leaders to ask for representatives to join those task and finish groups. Any member have any other item or anything they'd like to add on the Cabinet Work Programme? Very good. Agenda item 6 is the budget monitoring report. So the report in front of us sets out the Q3 period, and it sets out, as you will see, a pretty dismal performance. As things stand at the moment, the council is £3.1 million overspent. The largest amount of that comes from the waste service that was introduced by the previous administration, which is overspent to the tune of around £2.1 million. As you can see elsewhere in the report, there are a number of alarming statistics around where the council is spending money on legal fees for housing disrepairs and on many other areas of the council, which is why I think it is important that we bring to this committee, this cabinet meeting, a housing improvement board, so that we can start to get on top of exactly what is going on in the housing and repairs service and in the legal challenges that we are facing as a consequence of how the housing team is currently operating. We know that the new waste service that comes into effect from the 28th of April will help to reduce those costs, particularly around the staffing and the vehicles and the fuel, which we are having to spend now because of the disastrous service that was brought in previously. But the report is in front of members for consideration. We are only asked to note this report. I would just say I'm going to amend the recommendation. I don't see the need to consume full council's time with a report for noting, so this will be noted here. But if any member wishes to speak on this, they can let me know. But I'm first of all going to come to the Leader of the Opposition. Do you have anything on this report? Councillor Baggott.
Well, I could wax lyrical about the fact that you keep talking about the 2.1 million overspend from the previous administration, which, as you know, is factually incorrect. But I'm not going to labour the point on that. What I would say is that I think that not taking this to council is yet another dig and attack on democracy. It is only quite right that 42 members should actually note this, and not just the small cabal that is assembled here this evening.
Okay. I mean, I don't really know where to start with that, because if you look at the facts in front of you, I assume you've had the agenda, Councillor Baggott. You've read it in good order. You will see the figure of 2.1 million overspend in the waste service. You will see that the report details that is because of additional crews, fuel and transportation, and therefore it is indisputable that 2.1 million of the 3 million plus overspend is a consequence of the waste system that this council is operating, but will cease to operate on the 28th of April. As for calling the cabinet a cabal and everything else, I really think you need to moderate your tone and your language in these meetings. You've been getting away with it from previous monitoring officers when it comes to how you conduct yourself in these meetings. I think you really need to buck your ideas up. Councillor Smith.
Thank you. Starting from that point you finished, who got rid of the cabinet committee system? It wasn't us. But getting back to the crux of this matter, the issue of the housing revenue account, and we can start to see changes already. I mean, the disrepair claims, these are ambulance chasing solicitors. We could send a letter out on the wrong date, and that could be a part of a disrepair claim. So since we've been in office, we've started the surgeries, which have been well attended. We've had the odd weekend surgery to respond to residents' concerns. I won't go into detail about how we're fighting these disrepair claims, because that's showing our hand, and that's not a very smart thing to do. But we are taking them on, we are fighting them. But when we left office May 21, we didn't even have a handful of claims. And what happens is, as an authority, if you become a sucker for disrepair claims, solicitors will just focus. I've seen advertising for disrepair solicitors, if you can call them that, on council notice boards. I've told my staff months ago, and they've done it, to have them all removed from notice boards and flats, inside the flats as you go in. That's meant to be for the cleaners to prove they've been there, or any other communications. We've been very out there, and we've put the money into the budget going forward, over 16 million, to help with the housing repairs. We've got the outstanding housing repairs from 4,500 to below the monthly target of 2,500, and myself and the leader are cracking down on that. And also, we need this, once members get the full gist of the Housing Improvement Board, it's not about how bad or how good you are with the government. We shouldn't have to worry about these people coming down. we should be making sure we know what our housing stock's about and all the details. That's the way going forward. So if we have a particular style of housing stock that is prone to problems, rather than wait until we get a call for repair, or worse still, a claim from a disrepair solicitor, we're ahead of that repair and we've put in at maintenance going forward. That is a smart, logical thing. But obviously it will cross over with Councillor Yacoub's brief, but gathering that information and working smartly, that's the way forward. But saving £500,000, and that is mainly because of disrepair, I think is a credit to the first efforts we have made, working with our team of officers. But these disrepair solicitors are taking money away from people's repairs, which they pay their rent for. And when people get a so-called payout from a disrepair solicitor, the solicitors get the lion's share of the money, not the poor tenant who thought they was in line for a result because we weren't getting the repairs done. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I think there's a couple of further points that you've mentioned there. So one of the things around the HRA that we are seeing is an overspend around security costs on Acorn House. Now, I think one of the things that we need to do is look at security more generally and look at what we are spending across the town centre on the various assets that we own and have a bit of a review on where they are going, because we cannot be overspending to the tune of £100,000 on security. That cannot be happening at this council. I also think it's worth noting that in the planning and infrastructure section here, that we are seeing an underspend, and that is because of a reduction in the number of these large appeals. So again, we as a council were spending and wasting thousands and thousands of pounds of taxpayer money on planning appeals that we knew that we were never ever going to win, that we had no legal basis to win, that were laughed out of these planning appeals from the inspector, and yet the previous administration were content to spend tens of thousands of pounds on these appeals because of the vanity projects that they were running. It's also, I think, interesting that we are seeing expenditure on the severance schemes, the reserve, the employee rationalisation reserve. I don't need to remind anybody who the leader of the council was when we spent £1.7 million out of reserve on severance schemes for just a few council officers. So when you look at this report, it makes for pretty grim reading, I have to say, and we really, really do need to get on top of this so that we are in fit shape to enter into a unitary council in a couple of years' time. Any other member have anything that they wish to say on this? No, in which case this report is for noting, so we will consider this report noted. Thank you. It's called filibustering. Because agenda item, what is it? 7 is the refresh of the council's corporate plan. So members will be aware that on the agenda we have been talking about having a refresh of the council's corporate plan. We've waited for the new chief executive to arrive so that the new chief can have a look at the corporate plan and make an assessment of the organisation, and we are now in a position to bring this corporate plan forward to the council. So there are a number of key ambitions and strategic goals here. We are, in the first instance, having a focus on people, building stronger and healthier communities, and there is key priorities here around community cohesion, around safety and security, also around young people and education, as well as health and well-being. We've got our second major focus in the corporate plan is around place and enhancing housing and public spaces, and we've talked about some of that already this evening. So civic pride and public spaces, sustainable waste management, and looking at housing across the whole piece, including temporary accommodation. Looking at the new build programme, how we're going to get more council housing built and how we are going to protect Basildon residents who are looking to enter into the private rented or private sale market. Looking at estate regeneration as well. We know that there are still some legacy estate regenerations that need to be completed, like Craylands, but also we know that there are other schemes in other parts of the borough where they need some TLC as well. And then the regeneration more generally, where we have 4 out of 5 of our towns currently under some form of regeneration, whether that be at the planning stage or through to demolition and construction as well. The third phase of the new corporate plan is around our promise to drive economic growth and opportunity, supporting Basildon's businesses. We are the biggest economy in Essex. We want to maintain that. We want to grow our businesses. The Cabinet member and I were at the South Essex Business Expo just today, speaking to our businesses who were there exhibiting. We want to ensure that the regenerations support that economic growth, so that we not only bring in jobs of the future into Basildon, but we are ensuring that Basildon, Bricky, Chippies and Sparkies are at the front of the queue when it comes to building these homes and these new town centres. Looking at education and skills development, the Construction Academy that we will be bringing forward. In fact, let's add the Construction Academy to the work programme as well while we're at it. Let's bring a report on that, because that's an important establishment. And then, of course, the town centre revitalisation. The fourth element of this is around public service and transforming the council services, and that is obviously critically important now, as LGR means we are moving towards being a unitary authority and ending the disastrous 2-tier system. So investments in the financial sustainability, what that new target operating model needs to be for the council going forward, as well as investment in the infrastructure of the council and those partnerships that we are going to need as we move into that brave new era. I think what is really interesting is that this has not been an exercise in just myself and the chief executive sat in a room writing a piece of paper that could have really been copied and pasted from any council anywhere in the country. This has been underpinned by some really, really interesting focus group work that the council conducted throughout the autumn. We went into all 5 towns of the borough. We went to speak to hundreds of residents. We held focus groups. We held face-to-face interviews with people. I think hopefully what is in here was not a surprise. In every single area of the town, of the borough, across all 5 towns, people telling us that community safety is the #1 issue for them, that fixing the bins is the second issue for them, and there are some really, really interesting insights. And my thanks to QA Research, who I think did a very, very good job on that. And I think it would be interesting to perhaps look at this on an annual basis and start to compare and to see where the borough is in terms of their view on how we are delivering on the corporate plan going forward. But that's something that we can discuss afterwards. I don't know if the Chief Executive, if you want to add anything on this at this point?
I think you've got it.
Okay, brilliant. All right, any member wish to come in and speak? Leader of the Opposition, Councillor Baggett.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, the corporate plan is the corporate plan, and we've had successive corporate plans over previous administrations of all stripes. And at the end of the day, it's motherhood and apple pie. It doesn't say anything here that is any different to the previous corporate plan, which is any different to the corporate plan before that, with regard to the ambitions of officers and also the ambitions of members within Basildon. The key thing, of course, is whether the corporate plan gets delivered, and that is where you will be held to account. And therefore, I welcome the idea of having some company come in and assess you each year, because although you get assessed normally at elections, there is a drive to try and cancel democracy in the borough, which stops the people actually giving a view. So having some sort of independent audit of your performance is very welcome. It would be interesting to find out how much we spent on QA research, because I'm sure they are lovely people. I'm sure they've done a very thorough job, as you've seen. But as you said, they haven't actually told us anything we didn't know already from all the previous researches that have been done and the previous consultations that have been done time and time again. So the real thing is there's a lot of verbosity there, there's a lot of words, but the proof of the pudding will be actually in the delivery. And that is what you will be ultimately held to account for by both us and the people.
Okay, so I think we've all just had an insight into how you led this council, to be honest, and why you got yourself into the problems that you did. Because if we know all of these things, let's have a look at the performance. And the number one thing that people have told us is that community safety is important to them. While you were the leader of the council, there was virtually no enforcement action happening. Community safety was going absolutely nowhere. We had a warden scheme that was failing. The metric shows that it wasn't happening. The town centre crime rates are going up. They are not going down. People are telling us, it's here in black and white, that they fear going into Basildon town centre. So your warden scheme wasn't working. They told us that their second big issue is around fixing the bins. Let's have a remind me what you did with the waste service. You introduced the most disastrous waste service anywhere in the country. So on the people's priorities that apparently you knew and that was written into your corporate plan, it was a disaster under your leadership. And that is why you are sat there looking very lonely this evening. And when it comes to questions about cancelling democracy, let us just remind ourselves that the elections that have been postponed are the Essex County Council elections. And who was it that asked for the Essex County Council elections to be postponed? It was the Conservative leader, Kevin Bentley. It wasn't the Labour Party, it was the Conservative leader who was driving that at Essex County Council. The elections here will take place in 2026 and 2027, and the public will be able to answer for themselves whether or not they feel as though there is increased enforcement action. Councillor McGeorge has had 3 people through the courts in the last 2 weeks on enforcement action. We have more things planned, stand by for what's coming out over the next week or so. We are fixing the bins and returning to weekly black collections from the 28th of April. We are scrapping the blue and white sacks that have been a disaster as well. So I fancy my chances, if I'm being honest with you, when it comes to comparing my record to your record on the people's priorities, as apparently was so apparent to you. Councillor Yacoub.
Thank you. I'd like Councillor Baggott to take his memory back to his own corporate plans, in which the themes clearly stated people, places and prosperity. And at the end of your 3 years of being in charge and running this council, people went better off, the places looked like a haven for fly dumping, and the borough was not prosperous in any way. You'd left our town centres to rot and die and manage the decline of our town centres. And then you sit there today and say this is no different to any other corporate plan. The very key distinction compared to every other corporate plan that I've sat through under your administration is that this one is embedded with substance and clarity. Under each of our themes, whether it's people, whether it's pride, whether it's the promise, whether it's public service, we have tangible actions that we are taking and we are already taking. And when you say you're going to hold us to account, great, go ahead. We welcome that, because every single thing that's before you here in this document today is something that has tangible actions and tangible plans associated with it. When we think about, for example, community cohesion, improving safety under the people theme, we've done the Women's Safety Charter. These are not abstract things. We've been tackling things like domestic abuse. We have tangible actions here. We've also put children and young people at the forefront of this plan. A lot of the times in policy making, that isn't always visible, but we have plans to ensure that they're at the heart of our vision. When it comes to places, we're building homes so people can have a home to live in. Later on tonight, you're going to look at the Basildon's first charter, where we're going to be giving security to our residents of having a home. When we look at the theme under promise, we're talking about providing better education, enhancing skills, looking at the skills gap. There is so much here that shows that we're actually taking action. Under public service, we're improving things like our website, we're making it easier for residents to contact us, to have access to us. We're creating a future-ready council, and everything in this corporate plan strategically positions us in a very positive way for devolution. But you can just sit here and say the same things over and over again. I mean, aren't you tired? I don't understand.
Thank you, Councillor Yacoub. Anyone else wish to come in? No, I think you're right. You could sum up the Tory corporate plan in 2 words, manage decline, and you could sum up ours in 3 words, believe in Basildon. Look at that for poetry. The recommendation is on page 36. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. That is unanimous. Agenda item 8 is the Basildon First Charter. Councillor Power.
Thank you. I think this follows on quite nicely from the corporate plan as well. Tonight I'm proud to sit and introduce the refreshed Basildon First Charter. This charter does represent a positive step for our town, and this is one of many commitments we're making as a council to put our residents, our businesses and our communities front and centre of our regeneration and the future. We'll put residents first and reinforce our commitment to responsible development and that benefits everyone. This charter was initially published in 2021 to ensure that the Basildon Town Centre evolves a social value captured directly supporting our community. I don't really know what's happened with it since, and under your control, I don't think anything was done with it at all. The Basildon First Charter sets out 6 key priority areas. Our housing promise, to ensure that new homes are accessible to those who live and work in this borough, with affordable and accessible housing opportunities prioritised by our residents. Our local labour promise, focusing on boosting employment for local people, will bolster the Construction Academy and our Meet the Buyers to ensure that we are making sure that our businesses are involved in the supply chain. Our inclusivity promise commits us to sustainability, environmental responsibility and inclusive spaces that promote well-being and connectivity in our community. We have a supply chain promise, a communication promise and our place promise. By working together with this charter, we can create a better Basildon, one that champions inclusive economic growth, prioritises our residents and builds a future where opportunity is available to all. But all of that being said, I know this charter needs to be stronger. I want to prove to our residents tonight and our businesses that we are serious about putting them first and show any developer that wants to build here in the borough that we are serious. So I ask tonight that we make a few key amendments to this charter and bring this document back to full council next week. The first change I would like to make is that the 12-month requirement will be a minimum and it is not negotiable. It will be a minimum requirement. I look to ensure that all planning reports that come to committee will have confirmation on whether the developer has agreed and signed the Basildon First Charter and why they have not. And also the last change I'd like to make is that the Basildon First Charter will be within every single Section 106 agreement, regardless of the size of the development. This charter is more than a set of guidelines. It's a commitment to our community, our values and our shared future.
Thank you, Councillor Power. And just to reiterate, I completely agree with everything you are saying there, that this will be a minimum of 12 months that it is offered to people in Basildon. And that it should be included in every single planning application that is before the planning committee. Members of the planning committee must be told whether or not the developer has signed the Basildon First Charter. If not, why not? And if they have, then they are committing to the 12 months for our residents to be at the front of the queue. This must be negotiated in the 106s of all of the developments coming forward. So we are really, really clear that any developer who wants to build here is building for 12 months for Basildon people and Basildon residents. And I think it is critical as well to say that listed in this report about risks, that the idea that there is limited market demand and that there may be insufficient local demand for properties within the initial 12-month period, developers may face financial risk. I say to you, come and see me in 2085 when the demand for housing in this borough has gone down. There is no way that I would be accepting that. So with all of those amendments in mind, I agree that this should go to full council next week for members to have a look at. We can always refresh the report that has been published in advance of that meeting next week. I will begin this item with the Leader of the Opposition. Do you wish to come in, Councillor Baggott?
Thank you, Chairman. Opposition should be being constructive rather than just Yabu sucks. I think that the principle behind this is very, very good. I applaud the fact that there are a number of promises that are there, and I also welcome the Cabinet members' look to strengthen it. However, it is quite clear here, and it does say it in the report itself, this is a voluntary agreement and has no legal standing. So I'm just curious as to what the legal standing would be of a planning committee refusing, say, a planning application on the basis that the developer hasn't signed up to the charter. Where does that actually leave planning as far as the legality of it? I also think that what is needed is more strength than that. There needs to be a mechanism or checks and balances put into place whereby when all these promises are broken, that we know they've been broken. There needs to be, if you don't actually know that they're being followed, you can't actually take action. So then a promise just becomes an empty promise. We need to make sure that that promise is backed up with some teeth, and we need to think about how we do that. And I think that if you do that, and you've actually got the teeth to back it up, and a mechanism by which to actually work with, it just strengthens the whole thing.
Thank you, Councillor Baggett. So I'd say on that last point, one of the things that I think is critically important is around, we're obviously focusing a lot on the people buying the properties, but the Charter does make specific around the supply chain promise. I think one of the things that Councillor Power and I heard very loudly and clearly today is that developers who have won work, frankly under your watch, have not followed through with putting Basildon businesses into their supply chain, despite making all of the right noises. So if they are listening to this and they are building housing not so far away from here, opposite a certain BP garage, we will be asking questions about why Basildon businesses have not been included in the supply chain, and they may want to reflect on whether or not, as we build 27,000 properties across this borough over the next 20 years, they would like to be part of that, or whether or not they would like to annoy the council by not including our businesses in this going forward. In terms of the issue around the legality, clearly, if the council adopts this as a policy tonight, if the developers choose not to sign it and a planning committee is minded not to support an application because the developer suggests that they can't prioritise Basildon residents despite record demand for housing amongst the Basildon population, then let's go and have that fight at the planning appeal. Let's go and take this to the Secretary of State's desk and say to her, we want to protect Basildon residents and we need the support from the government and from the planning inspector to do it. But if it is a 106 agreement, and we have the MO here, but if we have a 106 agreement, I expect the 106 to be adhered to. So if they are willing to do it and they do sign up to the Charter and they do tell us that they're going to follow through with it and they put it into the 106, then that condition will be discharged and we will see Basildon residents move to the top of the list. But on this, like on so many other things that we have got to get to grips with based on the inheritance that we had, enforcement is going to be key. And we need to start upping the ante on enforcement on a number of things. Any other member wish to speak on the Basildon First Charter? Okay, the recommendation then is on page 162, just to confirm that we are going to make those minor amendments and this report is going to full council and the Cabinet members asked for that to happen. So all those in favour please show. That is unanimous. Thank you. Agenda item number 9 is the Activity Centre review. Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Leader. I'd just like to start off by setting out developments that have taken place since January and reinforcing to members and around the services that we deliver as part of our activity centre services. One of the things that I'm most proud of within my portfolio is our commitment to supporting residents through our activity centre service provision that has been in existence for many, many years. What we're seeking to do to be able tonight through the service review is to be able to protect the existing service, to be able to sustain it and to be able to enhance it for the future. Over the last 9 months, I've had the privilege on many occasions of being able to go out and to meet with our activity centre service committees. And I'd like to place on record my thanks to all of the activity centre committees for the hard work that they do and the strong work that they do in representing the work of the members of each of the activity centre services. Over the last few months, I've been able to travel around and meet members of the activity centre services who have told me time and time again how much they enjoy the activities that are provided through each of the activity centre services, the difference that it makes to their life, the opportunities that they've been able to access through getting involved in volunteering, through meeting friends, meeting new community groups, the confidence that they've been able to develop. A resident last Friday at the George Hurd Centre described the service over there to me as a lifeline. And hearing those comments from residents and seeing those residents face to face and being able to engage with them reminds me of the significant responsibility that we have and the significant duty that we have to be able to protect those services, to make them there for residents to be able to enjoy for the future. One of the most alarming conversations I had when I first came into post in May last year was around the risks to the responsibilities that I hold and the long-term sustainability of the activity centre services with the current funding model that is in place presented a significant risk to the longevity of the service that's in place. And it was right that we looked at alternative measures to be able to, the kind of governance arrangements that were in place for the activity centre services. In fact, that was a review that was commissioned by my predecessor starting in April 2023, who I'd like to thank for her work that she committed to the activity centre services. And I know how important the services meant to her. I'm pleased to be able to bring this forward tonight. I've also spoken many times at those activity centre meetings, in cabinet meetings, in council meetings. When I speak about my commitment to activity centre services, it's a personal mission of mine to be able to protect those activity centre services. I've spoken about the importance of activity centre services to my own family, and I also speak as a community worker and know the difference that those activities provide on a day-to-day basis to those residents. The council is currently supporting activity centre services to the tune of approximately £400,000. We have approximately 8 full-time members of staff that are employed to manage the services across 3 activity centres, George Herd, Laindon and Pitsea. The current governance arrangements in place see the governance in terms of finance, health and safety, legal, finance, all sitting with activity centre committees, voluntary committees that members elect on an annual basis. The actual management and the responsibility for the services sits with the council. There's a hybrid model that is in place. The current funding model threatens the longevity and the sustainability of the service that we currently enjoy and that residents currently get the benefits from. So looking at the options that are available, there were 5 options that were presented to us to be able to explore. The criteria that I set at the time remains the criteria that is set now, that any change has to enable the same staff delivering those services at the same time, at the same cost, at the same venues, for exactly the same benefits for residents to be able to enjoy. I know firsthand the importance of the commitment to seeing regular staff that are in place, being able to have that consistent model of delivery, those trusted relationships that residents have built with their staff that deliver those services, and the same activities being able to enjoy. That was the criteria that was set, and 5 options were then presented to be assessed against that criteria. Option 5 was, which was about bringing the full governance arrangements of the services, was brought forward to scrutiny, overview and scrutiny in December. Prior to that, I met with each of the activity centre services committees to be able to talk through the proposed changes that were being presented. I then attended public meetings to discuss those changes. And at the January meeting of Cabinet, we deferred the decision tonight to be able to give greater exploration to other options that were being presented. It is right that when we're making a change of this significance, that we explore other options, that we engage with residents further to make sure that it's the right decision for the residents, it's the right decision for the longevity of the service, to be able to protect, sustain and enhance the activities that take place. During those discussions with residents and in the build-up to January, I met with each of the activity centre services, as I said. I also attended a public meeting at Laindon. Following the meeting of the January Cabinet, I've met with all of the activity centre services committees again. I have also attended a public meeting at the George Herd Centre. And in seeking to explain the decisions that we're making tonight, residents had the opportunity to ask questions. They asked many detailed questions, and I want to summarise the themes of the questions that residents were raising. One of the themes that residents were asking questions around was about the impact of devolution, whether that has an impact on the services that are delivered. I actually think having the full governance, the full operational services sitting underneath the authority, actually with devolution, strengthens the service going forward rather than weakens it. I was asked questions around the current finance model and the costings of the services, of whether the activities that they pay for now are going to be at the same cost in future years. I'm committing to exactly the same costs at exactly the same centres as they currently are now. So the costs at the George Herd, the costs at Laindon, the costs at Pitsea will remain as they currently are. I was asked around the equipment. The equipment will stay at each of the existing centres as it currently does. I was asked around the current trips and events that take place and one of the things that I know residents particularly enjoy is opportunities to be able to go on the holidays that the service committees organise, be able to go on day trips to London, to be able to go and visit the theatre. Those are activities that I strongly believe in and strongly want to be able to continue. So absolutely they will continue as they currently do now. I was also asked around the existing food arrangements that are in place and the T-bar services that are in place that are at the existing centres. That will continue. In short, Leader, the frontline services that residents continue to enjoy as they are now are exactly the same benefits that residents will enjoy in the future. It is also right that the residents have their say in being able to scrutinise the work of the activity centres once the Service Commission comes in, if pending Cabinet decision tonight, if the decision is that we progress with this to be able tonight, it's right, the residents have the opportunity to scrutinise our work. One of the things I'm most proud of that we've set up this year is the area committees, and I think that enables the body to be able to be the voice of the residents, to be able to have resident voice in shaping those services going forward. We will have advisory committees being able to be in place to deliver and to be able to scrutinise the work of the council delivering these services. That is absolutely right, and I commit to that this evening. I was also asked questions around what further work we can do to enhance and raise the profile of activity centre services. Being able to have our communications team support in being able to do that, being able to deliver the service fully in-house, enables greater communications that we can give to the service, which will give greater profile and recognition to be able to encourage more residents to be able to attend and more activities to be able to enjoy in the future. So all of the questions that I was asked, I group in those particular areas. That covers most areas that the residents were asking me about. And I now think it is time for us to make a decision on the long-term decisions that for us to be able to deliver for the long term and us to be able to protect the activity centres going forward. So if Cabinet is minded and agrees with the recommendations that I'm proposing this evening, what we'll be voting for is to be able to protect the service so that residents can enjoy the same activities at the same times, the same locations with the same staff for the future. We'll be able to sustain it with a sustainable funding model that will see these activities continue to thrive, and we'll be able to allow the activities to prosper and enhance the service through greater communications and greater activities in place. So I commend the statement to Council, to the Cabinet, and we'll take any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Does the Leader of the Opposition have any points on this? Councillor Baggett?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I mean, this is, without generalising, it does seem to be one of the Labour credos that life is about micromanagement and taking as much control over things as they possibly can. And this is another example of that credo being manifest. But when we talk about it, I mean, we need to be honest. When the Cabinet member suggested taking it back to the committees at the last Cabinet meeting, the Leader admonished him and said that, no matter what, it had to be coming here because there were savings to be made. So that's the real driver, and we should be honest about it. The driver for this is nothing to do with the community centres, it's nothing to do with the activity centres, it's nothing to do with the people in the community. It's making a saving for the council. Now, when this was done in the past, and I do appreciate that just because something doesn't work in the past doesn't mean it won't work again in the future. When the council was responsible overall for the activity centres and everything they did, it turned out to be a complete and utter disaster, and it resulted in disenfranchised communities, people actually becoming very cynical about getting involved and wanting to be active and wanting to take part. And let's hope that the same thing doesn't occur again. But the question I would ask the Cabinet member is, because he did come here with proposals, those proposals haven't changed a bit. So if he had all these meetings with the public and he had meetings with the activity centres, is he really saying that not one of them had a single idea or suggestion that could actually be taken forward as a way of tweaking what is on paper now?
Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank the Leader of the Opposition for his question. Perhaps he would like to turn his attention to the report, where we reference conversations that took place with other parties. We invited other expressions of interest to be able to come forward with the criteria that was set. One expression of interest came forward due to TUPE regulations, the legal regulations in place. It was not able to progress. It was then not viable. It was deemed not viable by the organisation that came forward to discuss that with us. Therefore, we have to make a decision. And it comes back to making a decision that protects the long-term service that is being delivered in front of us, which is exactly what we're designing to protect tonight.
Thank you. Just before I come to Councillor Brown, I think starting to understand why the council was £3 million overspent under Councillor Baggett. Councillor Brown will tell us why.
I don't really understand, Councillor Baggott, why you have a problem with this council looking to save our residents over £300,000 a year. Why is that a bad thing? We have heard, and you can see in the report, and I'm sure you have read it, that Councillor Ferguson and Grant and his team have spent a lot of time talking to those people who use and run, etc., the activity centres. And there is a guarantee here that they are going to continue in exactly the same way. Same staff, same activities, the same things that are important to those residents so that they don't experience isolation and that they can continue to use our activity centres in the way they are. You know from the mess you left us in and from how local government financing has been, let's face it, targeted for the last 14 years and reduced over and over and over again. This council must be financially prudent, must be financially sensible. If our activity centres are to continue long term, we must be able to fund them. By saving the taxpayers over £300,000 a year by bringing it in-house, but still providing the service that our residents are asking us for, why is that a criticism? We're saving you money and we're giving you the service you want. How is that a problem, Councillor Baggott?
Well said. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank Councillor Ferguson. When this all first started, I had a number of constituents and people involved with various activity centres contact me, and I've put their questions to Councillor Ferguson. He took on board the points and he answered. It's the first time, both on Essex and Basildon, I've seen a regular decision deferred. So Councillor Ferguson could take on the points, because at the previous meeting when we discussed this, the public gallery had a number of people. There's a reason why they're not here tonight. They had that meeting with Councillor Ferguson and his team. They put their points over, and as was previously said about the 2p arrangements of staff, it wasn't feasible. But Councillor Ferguson had that conversation. If only that was the case with the bins, the leader of the opposition would be leader of the council. Imagine that. Brentwood would be in a far better place, as they're about to adopt fortnightly bin collections, but that's Brentwood's problem. But I think as well what's worth noting, if anyone bothered to put the TV on today or read the news, the Prime Minister has announced today to improve NHS outcomes in England, he's getting rid of a Quango, who one of my group work for, NHS England. So we get the NHS governed by people they elect, right? And it will save the taxpayer money. So when a new drug's launched, and it's sorry, you got a Z in your postcode, you can't have it. It was nice knowing you. Oh, there's a brochure for an undertaker. Well, now they can say, well, actually, sir, you haven't got to do a fundraiser. There's the drug for your kiddie. Bingo. And what's wrong with that? I see the parallels are the same. What the Prime Minister has said about abolishing NHS England, bringing the NHS under direct control, is the same as this service, which offer our elder residents. And it is very important they get safe company, they could be widowed, because of mobility issues, they can go to these activity centres. It's everything done at their pace and enjoyment and helping them to have a long and happy life. So I think Councillor Ferguson needs credit for pausing, having those conversations, dealing with those points, because they said if they had done that with the bins, someone might still be the leader.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. And I think if Councillor Water-Brown needs a new job, Councillor Power can help him after today. Councillor Power.
I just want to question something that the Leader of the Opposition said, and it happens time and time again at every single cabinet, every single full council. And I do wonder why you strive to do the job that you do and the role that you stand for, because every single time you put down the officers of this council, you insult them, you tell them they can't run services, you tell them they can't manage things. No wonder the residents and the people that live in this borough feel the way they do right now. No wonder they need us to come and raise their aspirations and actually do something and deliver something for them. And you can sit there and pretend to yawn, but the public see it every single time. And I will continue to point it out, because it really bothers me that our officers have to turn up time and time again and effectively listen to you insult them and their teams. And I think it's disgraceful.
Then maybe the councillor could explain to me right now
very
exactly
much,
what was said that was so
councillor.
insulting. Please
Councillor-
can you tell me
Councillor-
specifically
Councillor Baggott,
what was
Councillor
said that
Councillor
was
Baggott.
insulting to
Councillor Baggott.
officers? Because this gaslighting leader
Right,
has
no,
to
Councillor
stop.
Baggott. Okay. Let's just be clear. When a cabinet member, right, raises a point, she is to be treated with respect. It is not gaslighting to call you out on an issue, right? You are not chairing this meeting, right? You are here and able to speak at my discretion. And I am very fair to you, but you're annoying me now, so I won't be calling you again for the rest of the evening. Okay? You've just blown it. Anyone else wish to come and speak on this item? Very good. The agenda, the recommendation, very, very, very quickly.
No, thank you, Leader. I think it's just important to recognise the work of the Activity Centre Service Committees and actually shaping the policy that we're bringing forward tonight, and their time and their commitment to allowing us to develop it. So I'd like to place on record my thanks to them and to the hard work of our officers who devote day in, day out to delivering the Activity Centre services, as Councillor Powell quite rightly articulated and quite rightly championed, because without it, it wouldn't be able to make the difference to the residents' lives that it does. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. All those in favour of the recommendations, please show. Thank you. That is unanimous. Agenda item 10 is the Public Spaces Protection Order Annual Review. Councillor McGeorge.
Thank you very much, Leader. This report seeks members' approval to extend the Public Spaces Protection Order for an additional 3 years, as the current PSPO expires on the 31st of March 2025. Members are also asked to review the evidence and determine if the conditions for the proposed variations to the PSPO are met, including approving the variations outlined in enclosure number 1, along with schedules and maps for implementation. The proposed changes aim to help the Council and partners address antisocial behaviour by introducing new prohibitions and locations to curb detrimental behaviours. These include adding Basildon Town Centre to the existing motor vehicle prohibition, restricting amplifier use in the town centre, and introducing a borough-wide prohibition on antisocial bicycle use. The Council remains, as always, committed to maintaining a safe town centre, parks and open spaces with the necessary powers to address persistent antisocial behaviour.
Thank you, Councillor McGeorge. I think we should note the Leader of the Opposition has gone home. Councillor Smith.
Thank you. Maybe it's because it's all about Basildon, which they've never really been that concerned about. I'm happy to support this. And one of the reasons why I'm supporting this, it's important we keep our eye on the fire on PSPOs, because when Bas exit happens, I'm going to get some proper traffic wardens. The wardens our chief executive will be aware of, who won't ask the parents nicely, do you mind parking? It'll be like, you parked on the white zigzag, there's your ticket. Because in Havering, they use public space protection orders, but that's why I say it's important we keep this going, because when we get unitary status, our staff will have the skill set there, so where we've got that problem, we can look at it. But I think we need to get the police back into our town centre, and this isn't a bash the police. I read so many stories, and cabinet members will see that I regularly send it to you, such and such a police force has been out seizing illegal e-bikes and e-scooters in town centres. Because what a lot of elderly pensioners say to me, or people with disabilities, what puts them off going in the town centre on a weekend is these wallies driving like loons from one end of the town to the other, and no one's stopping them. So it would be nice to have the police come there, seize the illegal vehicle, because if my car wasn't taxed, MOT'd and insured, they'd do the same to me, and quite rightly so. So why should they be exempt? I even had a resident email me today saying, oh, I'm not happy you guys got rid of the trial e-scooters. So I explained to the lady why. Essex refused our 10-week consultation we requested at a democratic motion and done it for 3 weeks over Christmas when no one was interested and only attracted over 100 replies. But the lady quite rightly came back to me and said, OK, you're taking that service away from us. What about the people with the illegal scooters? So this PSPO is a tool to deal with that problem, but we need the powers of enforcement to be coming to our town and enforcing that issue. And one final point, my colleague Councillor Murphy, who's a Nevermain resident who lives on the Woodlands estate, if you've ever seen, I'm going to ask a silly question, have you ever seen the film The Great Escape? I say this is a silly question because you've all seen it over Christmas. That bit at the end with Steve McQueen trying to go over the Swiss border on a motorbike. You go Woodlands open space and it's like that. I have phoned the police one summer's afternoon. Three little kids. I was worried they'd hurt themselves. They was a pain in the jacksie with these glorified lawnmower engines on air dryers, because that's all they were fit for. But I was genuinely worried these kids were going to get killed. It's someone else's kid. They were doing wrong, but I just want the police to come along, seize the vehicles and say, on your way, Tommy, we'll take you home. And the police very nicely said, we'd love to attend. Yes, there is a PSPO in the area. We can't attend. So I went, fine. An hour later, I went to Tesco's and they was all out there getting sandwiches. So I'd asked Councillor McGeorge to throw her weight behind getting the police to enforce these PSPOs. We are doing our bit. Now we need the powers of the bodies that have the enforcement powers to go after this issue, so people start spending their money back again in our great town centre. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor George. You want to respond?
Thank you very much. Obviously, that's a really good point that you have brought up, these scooters, these motorbikes, everything like that. All I will say is, watch this space. We've got plans. Enforcement is coming. We'll let you know.
I just want to add one thing on this as well. So, as a St Martin's councillor covering Basildon Town Centre in particular, this was again an issue raised with me last night at a Meet the Leader event that I held in Basildon. Basildon Town Centre, I know we've had responses from a number of places, but I think when you're looking at this, it feels as though in Pitsea we are getting on top of the problem, that things are going in the right direction. There are two particular areas, I think, when it comes to this. Basildon Town Centre is definitely an issue, and you know, a long-term solution will obviously be the regeneration, and we're doing some work on that, and Councillor McGeorge and I are receiving a report with our various portfolios on the town centre safety plan coming forward. But there is definitely an issue around the 6 weeks school holiday. There is definitely an issue around Eastgate. We need to join up the security, and we need to join up the enforcement across both of those areas. And I know that the guys running the Eastgate are invested in that. They were at our Community Safety Summit. They talk to us regularly, and they want to work with us on that. And I do think one of the other things that we are going to have to look at, and I think we need to give it a little bit more consideration, there are issues in our town centre that both Basildon Council and the police are identifying and they are dealing with, but the courts are not. And the magistrates' courts are refusing to take the action that is necessary. Now, I don't know what levers we can pull on that, but we need to be influencing as much as we can, because if you are under the age of 18 but you are consistently engaging in ASB in Basildon Town Centre, then you need to be dealt with as strongly as possible. The second thing I think we need to reference here is that Wickford has problems at the moment as well, particularly in terms of commercial crime on the retail units in the high street. Now, of course, we are dealing with that in part through the community safety hub that we're going to be bringing to life at the Wickford Police Station site. But we need to make sure that whatever comes next in terms of our enforcement, whatever comes next in terms of our community safety offer, that Wickford is also part of that, because the high street desperately needs some help and support as well. So we need to give some further consideration around what we do once we get through the process of the council identifying it, the police identifying it, and it finding its way to the courts. And I think we also need to do some work with our schools, because there are far too many under 18s who are out and about in our town centres causing problems during the working day when they should be in school. So where are they? How is that being? How are they being held to account? And I think that is something that we need to work on. But there's also important to say the PSPO is just one part of the process here that we need to address when it comes to our town centres and keeping them safe. We also can't take our eye off the ball as the weather turns and we move towards the summer. We know that, yes, the issues tend to concentrate themselves in our town centres, but if one thing we've learned in Basildon or certainly I've learned as a councillor over the last 15 years, very quickly this will move to our parks. So we will be talking about Gloucester Park, Northlands Park, Victoria Park, Mopsy's Park. We'll be talking about those places very, very soon in terms of being areas for antisocial behaviour and disruption and unlawfulness. So we need to make sure we're not just focused solely on town centres, but we are flexible in whatever solution we bring forward so it can be redeployed into different parts of the borough. Does anybody have anything on this, Councillor Smith? And then I'll bring the Chief Executive.
I didn't mean to speak again, but you raised a point. You tried to give us a youth zone, but someone wanted it cancelled because Billericay weren't getting a youth zone, so none of us has got a youth zone. If we had a youth zone now, what impact would it be having? Because I've got a good idea in a positive aspect, but just be interested to hear your thoughts.
Well, I don't know if Mr. Taylor wants to say anything on this, but I would suspect the answer is massive. And I know that looking at youth zones is something that we are looking at in a different guise. I don't know, Grant, do you want to say anything on this? Yep.
I can, there we go. Pressing the wrong button, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I think we should be, this is a good time to take account of some of the fantastic work that many local voluntary organisations are doing. The area committees have been absolutely supportive of those and the work they're doing throughout the borough. However, providing more safe places for them to be able to do so, there's a lot of that work that goes on out and about with very little money, with very little resource to be able to do so. So that ability to be able to invest into our youth zones and invest often into a lot of those groups that are Basildon people driven fully by a passion to make a difference for their communities, I think young people are only set to gain from that. So I look forward to working with the Cabinet member to be able to bring that report back, as you said earlier, Councillor.
Thank you. I'm going to bring Councillor Yacoub and then I'm going to come to the Chief Executive. Councillor Yacoub.
Thank you. Just really quickly, as a St Martin's member, the key things that really stand out for me in this report is the added measures around amplifiers and the use of groups using bicycles and causing disruption. And one of the things that I'm quite surprised about is actually that the amplifiers weren't always part of this, because I was under the impression that they were. And I've had many a casework around the use of amplifiers and the disturbances they cause, but also groups and groups of young people on bicycles in the middle of the town centre. You know, even when I've had conversations with them saying you're not actually allowed to use your bicycles here and you're not allowed to be here, would quite flippantly be like, well, we are, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I think it's so important that we're taking this forward, and like you said, the key thing here is enforcement and being able to follow through on it.
Thank you. Chief Exec.
Thank you. I would just like to echo the points that Councillor George made around the new initiatives that are going to be launched in relation to community safety and in particular enforcement. Our PSPO areas are just one tool across the council that we can use to combat ASB, crime and antisocial behaviour within our town centres. The relationship with the police, as the leader has highlighted, is critical. This week I met with the new Chief Superintendent at Essex Police, and we are bringing to Cabinet our joint commitment to rebuild the relationships that we have with Essex Police. We are rebuilding the trust that we have with our communities, and in April we will be launching our community safety events within 14 wards across the borough. That will mean that our services will be coming to the 14 wards with ward members. We will be engaging with residents. We'll be engaging with businesses. We will be talking about our efforts to reduce crime and antisocial behaviour across the council, and we will also be seeking their response. I know Councillor Baggott has left, but he's absolutely right. We will be judged by our residents. We will be judged by how we support our residents. We'll be judged by the officers' interventions that they work tirelessly hard to deliver each and every day. And I'd like to thank them for being here this evening to support the Cabinet. We have a statutory duty under the Crime and Disorder Act, and we are committed to delivering that, and we will deliver that for the next financial year through our strategic needs assessment and the ongoing work of our efforts within the service. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Exec. Any other member? No. This is a huge amount of work that goes in across the community safety team, the legal team, so thank you all very much for the report and for your work on this. The recommendation, members, is on page 212. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. That is unanimous. Agenda item 11 is the AI savings plan, and for this I call Councillor Yacoub.
Thank you, Leader. Tonight we're bringing forward our AI savings plan, which builds on the AI strategy that we adopted in January. This plan sets out 12 key AI projects that will save us £1 million while ensuring that residents will get quicker, more personalised responses and better services overall. The timing of this plan could not be more significant. Earlier today, the Prime Minister announced a major initiative to integrate AI into the civil service. The government's goal of saving £45 billion through digitalisation and AI transformation mirrors what we are already delivering at a local level here in Basildon. Our AI savings plan aligns perfectly with this national push, demonstrating that Basildon is keeping pace with government ambitions and leading the way. Our digital customer service agent will provide 24/7 support, cutting waiting times and ensuring that residents get consistent answers, saving £340,000 a year. Citizen 360 will give us a single, joined-up view of our residents' data so we can handle common queries instantly and route complex issues to the right teams, saving £80,000 a year. AI will also help us to improve community safety by spotting risks early and helping us act before problems escalate. The Resident First initiative will make it easier for people to access council services, while the Business Initiative will support local businesses and drive economic growth. We are building an AI-enabled data platform which will give us real-time insights, helping us to make smarter decisions and saving £60,000 a year. AI integration with our older systems will reduce downtime and improve efficiency, saving £70,000 annually. Predictive maintenance will help us fix problems before they happen, cutting costs by £130,000 a year. Contract management will be automated, saving time and £20,000 a year. And fraud detection and revenue protection will help safeguard public funds, delivering another £30,000 in savings. Also, we will have an internal digital agent which will take over repetitive tasks so that our staff can focus on more valuable work. This will save us £230,000 a year. Our AI translation services will also save us an additional £100,000 annually. Altogether, as you can see, this plan will deliver £1 million in savings, and that is just the beginning. We will present a second AI savings plan to Cabinet in November, providing members with a progress update and bringing additional savings with it. In our budget consultation, it's really important to note that 59% of our residents said that they believe the council should increase the use of modern technologies to help tackle budgetary pressures and generate income. That's exactly what we're doing with this AI savings plan. We're listening to our residents, we're using their feedback to shape our AI savings plan, and we're investing in the future. Not only are we doing this, but we're equipping local businesses and residents with the skills needed to thrive in an AI-driven economy. We're ahead of the curve, we're positioning Basildon at the forefront of transformation, and I ask Cabinet to endorse this plan.
Thank you, Councillor Yacoub. Does any member wish to come in on this point? No. Thank you, Marianne. That was very comprehensive, and the report is very comprehensive as well. So thank you, officers, for pulling that together. The recommendations for this, members, is on page 258. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. That is unanimous. Agenda item 12 is the grounds maintenance future options. Councillor McGovern.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I've got some extremely good news for you, and for once it doesn't involve the bins. So I will come to some good news on the bins later as well. First off, it'd be very remiss of me not to thank James Hendry and his team for the colossal amount of work they put into this. It really has been a colossal amount of work at a time when they've been a little bit busy with one or two other issues as well. So it is very much appreciated that we've managed to get to this stage in the way we have. It'd also be remiss of me not to thank the Task and Finish group, which was established by the Overview and Scrutiny Commission, and their report was endorsed by the Cabinet in December. So thanks very much for all the effort that went into that. The really good news is I can announce tonight we are progressing towards the delivery of an in-house option for the grounds maintenance service. Wasn't always sure we'd get to this point, wanted to, but obviously an awful lot of work assessing the finances and whether we could make that work needed to be done. I'm very happy to say we're almost there now. I'd like to say I'm pleasantly surprised by that, because the received wisdom of previous administrations was that it couldn't be done. It clearly can be done, and it will be done. And what it will do as well is it will make a genuine difference to our residents. It will deliver far more flexibility and a better service. So we should all welcome that move, and I'm sure we will. When we do move in-house, there's still a lot of work to be done. Obviously, we've got tight deadlines to bring it in time. I want our staff to be proud to work for Basildon Council and proud of the quality of the service that they're providing for our residents. And I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you, Councillor McGarren. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I referred to the Cabinet Member on page 284, the third paragraph, a summer prune of the Council's housing stock. Could you elaborate that? Because am I seeing things, or is that a typo? Because last summer and the summer before that, when the Tories got rid of the summer prune, getting a lot of calls. I know James Hendry's got his hands up. My other question is, ever since Councillor Baggott took over the role of leadership of the council, which was thankfully diminished at the ballot box, I've been putting up my colleague Councillor Mo Larkin, and because of that phrase "no mo may," the open space in Kingswood and 2 parks in Lee Chapel South, people, was this a poke back because you was putting Mo up? No mo may. And the serious point is, the kids play football in these areas, and parents wanted to volunteer to get some sort of sit-on lawnmower and go along, but nobody could get it. But what if someone had to do that, and there's tin cans dropped and bits of metal flying in the air? I would just like to walk away tonight, and I'm sure my colleague Councillor Murphy, sitting here, fellow Never Main Ward councillor, look the residents of Kingswood and Lee Chapel South in the eye and say, the grass will be regularly cut in May, and Sun Corner won't look like a billiards table.
Yeah, I'll just speak briefly, and then if James wants to come in, that's fine as well. In terms of summer prune, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it was somewhat chaotic last year for a number of reasons. Obviously, a financial decision was taken, which we weren't we weren't told about, and was denied subsequently, but it was taken. There were also issues, to be fair, about the weather didn't help last year in terms of things being done on time. One of the things that bringing a service in-house will do is give us a much greater degree of flexibility, so that councillors can raise issues that need to. So with ID Verdi, no disrespect intended, it's very set in stone. This happens then, that doesn't happen. This happens and that doesn't happen. So we will have more flexibility. We'll be more responsive to what needs doing and when. And yeah, it comes down to flexibility. So like you talked about grass cuts, and again, because some of the changes that James has made already within the surface, we've got a lot more accountability, a lot more, councillors knowing who to talk to, who looks after their areas in terms of pride teams, etc. So all of that will, it's all joined up. That will all help as well. James, do you want to add anything there?
Thank you, Councillor. So I think that the summer prune refers to, there is a summer prune within the housing stock, which is paid for through the HRA. That's not the general fund, general amenity summer prune, which was correctly, as Councillor McGarren states, withdrawn previously.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Well, you say about the summer prune and housing estates, weren't on mine, was not on mine, but no, that wasn't under our watch. But my question about the open space in Kingswood, will it be cut this May, and them 2 parks in Lee Chapel South?
They're not doing casework.
Yeah.
Yes, Councillor.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, once again, I think this is a really good example of, by relying on the expertise of our officers, we're able to offer a better service that is costing us less. So we're saving our residents money. We can use this for other services to improve this service and to offer more for our residents. So yet again, it is showing that by listening to our residents, what they want, we know that 75% of our residents said they were not happy with the outsourced service and the way our borough was looking. When we're talking about fixing the bins, it's such a wider thing. It's about our environment. It's about the way people view the communities they live in. And that's reflective in this policy. The fact that we're able to bring this in-house, offer a better service, a more responsive service, a more accountable service, and doing it cheaper, why would we not do this?
Thank you, Councillor Brown. I just add from my perspective, again, last night at the Meet the Leader event, conversation with a resident on Fearing Drive who wanted to talk to me about a parcel of land behind his house that he's regularly having to cut because it only gets cut once or twice as part of the kind of residential makeup throughout the course of the year. Exactly that point around these neighbourhood plans, having the flexibility to be able to raise that with our people and get our people out there to be fixing that. That flexibility, I think, is critical. You know, we're going to have the AGM now coming forward at the start of May, and we're going to be bolstering the ability of the area committees to have oversight of some of this stuff, so they can scrutinise as well as do what they've done this year on a lot of this stuff. And I think it's, again, it comes down to what are your political priorities and what are you going to spend taxpayer money on. We've said very clearly we are fixing the bins, we are cleaning up the borough, everything from fly tipping to grass cutting is going to be looked after, and that is where the investment is going to be. Look, I'm all in favour of bringing services back in-house. That is something I am in favour of. I'm crediting Councillor McGurran and Councillor Hendry. You're not going to have much to do, are you, in year two, you two, to be honest? Did I call you Councillor Hendry? Sorry, I apologise.
Don't accuse him of that.
You've been promoted, Mr. Hendry, and your team. The fear in his eyes when I said that. But yeah, sorry, I shouldn't have said that. We have the recommendations, members, on page 284. All those in favour? Thank you. That is unanimous. I actually said there's 13, but there isn't. There's 14 items, isn't there? I've got to do the other one. But the next one is the waste strategy. And Councillor McGarren, this is you again.
Thanks very much. Things I never thought I'd say. I'm actually quite sorry Councillor Baggett isn't here for this, because I do still look forward to him trying to claim that the old waste system that they introduced was a soar-away success, and that no one's bothered about about the way it was going and wanted it changed. So it's a shame he's not here to make those very cogent points. This is the waste strategy and recycling policy, but it's important to say at the outset, we said we would fix the bins. Councillor Baggett, Councillor Blake and all the other Conservative councillors, past and present, said it couldn't be done. Tonight I'm very proud to announce we are very much in the process of fixing the bins. As of the end of April, we will have fixed the bins. Again, I'd like to thank not just James, but especially on this one, Alan Underdown, who, again, against a very challenging timetable, has put in an enormous amount of work. I mean, the strategy is a very, very comprehensive document, and I think it basically covers anything and everything that anyone might ever ask about the waste provision, waste service in this borough. So, yeah, you now know where to look. You don't need to ask me anymore, or James. Yeah, it covers every aspect of waste collection of the borough. It's incredibly comprehensive, but what we haven't done, just to be clear, is change things for the sake of changing them. Where things were fine the way they were, we haven't. But we've made some really significant changes, and we've also changed, I think, the tone of the strategy and policy, but we've not made random changes just for the sake of it. Obviously, the main changes you all know about are, and the one that the residents absolutely demanded, was to go back to weekly black collections. We're doing that as of April the 28th. That will be happening. And the other key component, the big change, is, again, starting from April 28th, we are getting rid of the blue and white sacks that didn't work. Thank you. And switching to single-use bags. On that, residents will have noticed, or some of them will have noticed, this week we started distributing the bags to residents. They will be getting them They will also be receiving a leaflet soon, if they haven't already, about just how the new waste system is going to work. So any confusion people might have, we are dealing with that. There's also information on the council website as well. Yeah, it's important to point out, though, that in terms of I can't stress this enough, in terms of the new bags that you're being delivered now, don't use them till April the 28th. Keep using the rubbish sacks, unfortunately, until April the 28th, and then start using the bags. Yeah, so I don't think I need to say any more. I'll be happy to answer any questions if there are any, but I take great pleasure in recommending this to the Cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McGarren. Any member? Councillor Smith?
Thank you. No, I'm not criticising this report one bit. In fact, there's a really good part on the back page. Under the Tories, you could have a Russian translation, but not Ukrainian. Under us, which we don't have to seek Putin's friends for support, Russians removed from the translation, we have Ukrainian, because we have a lot of Ukrainians being put up by local people, which is a good thing. But the point being, to speak on this item, if members refer to page 380 and 381, it speaks of clinical waste. Now, some people are getting the weight loss jabs privately, and some chemists are responsible, some online suppliers are not responsible by not telling the customer you can't put the needle in the bin, because it's not good for our refuse crews and people processing it at the other end. So I just wonder if we could do some sort of public information, maybe getting someone from the press team to contact local chemists to say, could you put this leaflet in your window, or advise their customers who buy these weight loss jabs, please get a sharps bin, because we wouldn't want the needles in our bins and we wouldn't want a refuse crew handling it. I know the present bins should stop a lot of accidents like that happen, but what if a person's working, servicing the truck, and you know these things get gunged up inside, and that person pricks themselves? There's a very good chance to be perfectly fine, but they have that fear and that worry. So I think, for the sake of a good advertising campaign, targeted, you're really good at it, Gavin. I don't know how to tell you to suck eggs on this issue, yeah? But I think it would be of a beneficial thing, because some people see these little needles and think, oh, they'll be fine in the bin, when they should be in a sharps box.
You're saying it's all spin? Councillor McGarren.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. I mean, in terms of communication, we can probably take that away and have a think about it. But I think in terms of clinical waste, I mean, it's a good point, and again, it shows how comprehensive the report is, because whilst that doesn't apply to that many of our residents, those that it does apply to is really, really important. So, you know, and fortunately not anymore, but used to have sharps bins in my house quite a lot, because I've got someone with type 1 diabetes. He's now on a closed loop system, so he doesn't need sharps anymore, which is great progress. But yeah, you know, it is really, really important. So anything we can do to help out, yeah. And the last thing we want is people not disposing of these things properly.
Very good. Any other member? Slava Ukraine. Okay, the recommendation is on page 354. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. That is unanimous. The last agenda item, apologies, this is a supplementary item that was added. This is in relation to LGR and local government reorganisation, otherwise known as BAS Exit. You will have received an interim report that has come round this evening. The reason why it's taken a little bit longer to get to you is because we wanted to present the most up-to-date picture of where we are. The government placed Essex on the devolution priority programme back in February, and they set us two deadlines. The first was the 21st of March, the second the 26th of September. By the 21st of March, we must get our interim high-level plan into the government about where we are as a county, both in terms of our preparations for devolution, but more pressingly, our preparations for local government reorganisation. The leaders and the chief executives are meeting It feels like on an hourly basis, but it's certainly a daily or every other day at the moment to look through where we are. There's an enormous amount of work going into it. Our MO is meeting regularly with the other MOs. Our 151 is meeting with the finance officers across the county. This is all kicking off now. It is happening. It is great progress that we've wanted to see here for a long time as an administration. But the first step is to get a letter into government that has been agreed. So the letter that is before members this evening, I agreed to that. I agreed to bring it back to this council on the 28th of February for council to give our recommendation. Now, of course, full council has already looked at some options back in November. It has already given a view as to its policy preference. But I have committed to keep council updated throughout this whole process. So I'm asking the Cabinet tonight to endorse that letter. I would say very clearly it is not perfect, but that is part of the political compromise that we are going to be engaged in over the course of the next 6 months. There is a clear preference in Essex from 2/3 of the councils for there to be 5 unitary authorities across the county. The government has written to all of the leaders to let us know that the average size of a unitary council in England is 290,000 in population, and they will accept populations between 300,000 and 400,000 as part of this, particularly in areas like Essex where there is significant growth planned. And we as a council would be dedicating our resource and our attention into the 5 model. That is the model that we believe as a cabinet and as a council offers the best solution for local government to remain local and not to create these monster councils that PwC want everybody to create, and to allow us to ensure that we can be in touch with our local residents and that we have the space to grow. Whatever we do over the course of the next 6 months, I think, as I've said to many people, my son is 5 months old. He will be 51 the next time this is done, God willing. So it shows you that what we do now has to last for the next half century. The last time this was done was 1974 on this size and this scale. So starting on day one with monster councils of 600,000-700,000, I don't believe is local government, and I don't believe it will be in 10, 15, 20 years' time. So that is why it is imperative that we start the work looking at the 5 model, which we've already done, and we will put that case before the council before that is submitted in September. So does any member have any points on this? Councillor Smith.
I think the best argument I've heard for BAS exit and reorganisation, Councillor McGowan would have been witness to, made by the Liberal Democrats at County Hall in defence of the system, saying that it was the Liberals that set up the County Council in 1886. And you think to yourself, how out of date. My hometown of Dagenham was just fields and farms, and this is the future. And this is where we want to go, because when residents contact a councillor, a lot of it is highway issues, street lights, and it's like, well, I'll have to speak to a county councillor. There shouldn't be 2 grades of councillor. There should be 1 grade of councillor fixing these problems. And one final point I'd like to make on it, isn't it funny? Our post bags were infilled last year with complaints from residents about the dreadful state of the roads. And why was that? Because there were elections in other parts of Essex, wasn't there? So Basildon being net contributor to County Hall, our taxis going round, sweetening up voters where they could. And because it was planned to have county elections, all of the main roads in Basildon are seeing highway crews. You're seeing road diversions where they're doing a proper resurface. They are no friends of ours, the County Council, and I speak as a County Councillor. So let's get rid, and I'd like to thank the leader, because it has been hard, because no one party or residents or independent group controls any majority of councils in Essex. So you've had a real mishmash of local authorities to deal with and work with. I know it's not been easy, but you've worked very hard to get us to this position. I'd like to thank you. so that we can say BasExit happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. And I do think it's worth putting on record that across the county, it is hard, right? We are abolishing the council. We are taking on massive issues. I know everybody talks about adults and children's social care, and that is a massive issue. But I think if you look at it in terms of percentage terms, it's not on the same size of numbers. But what is going to bankrupt local government quicker? Is it going to be adults and children's, or is it going to be temporary accommodation? They are equally as challenging in terms of where we are at the moment. And I think we have a real opportunity here because, as I've said all along, the reason that the government is doing this is not just because they think they want to try and save money and it's all about lines on a spreadsheet. They are doing it because the outcomes across the county of Essex are rapidly in decline. Whether that is educational attainment, whether that is house building, whether that is job growth, whether that is infrastructure improvements. I mean, there's 3 Muppets on the front of the Basildon Echo today talking about straightening the fortune of Wall Roundabout. I mean, they've had 14 years in government to be straightening the fortune. One of them was the Minister for Roads. I wonder what. I mean, he didn't have an interest in Basildon Billericay at the time. He was a member of Parliament for North West Durham, but he was the Minister for Roads. And you do look at it and think the only way to make that happen is realistically through the creation of a combined authority. Having a strategic authority who can take ownership of those big infrastructure issues and get them over the line, because individual councils will not be able to do that. They need to be concentrating on fixing the foundations of local government that have been decimated for the last 15 years. I do think, and I will say to colleagues across the county of all different political persuasions, there is a maturity in Essex that is not there at the moment in other counties, right? People recognise, we know, right, that we are creating a Conservative mayor for life here in Essex for all intents and purposes, but we think it is the right thing to do in order to deliver the infrastructure and those big ticket items. There needs to be checks and balances, hence why there needs to be 5 unitary councils to hold those checks and balances on that mayor. But similarly, there is nobody in Essex arguing that the 2-tier system should remain. All councils have come to the conclusion that unitarisation is the right thing to do, and there is a 2/3, it's probably in fact larger than 2/3 majority that is behind the 5 model. What we need to do now is get that over the line. We need to work together to get that over the line. We need proper data sharing agreements across all of the unitaries and upper tier authorities to be able to do that. I am confident that everybody will work together in the mature way that they have done over the last 6 months to get us to this point, and then we'll be able to come back to council in a few months' time with the outline of what the new councils are going to look like. So I'm going to end it there. Did you want to speak? Yeah. All right, Councillor Brown.
Just really, really small. Today I was at the East of England Local Government Association conference looking at how infrastructure can be brought forward in the East. And we had everyone there from councillors, portfolio holders, planners, those businesses that bring forward that infrastructure. We had regulatory bodies like Ofwat there. We had people who want to build roads, who want to bring more water, want to build reservoirs, and everything, you know, that's associated with infrastructure projects that are large and comprehensive in the East of England. And what was clear in those different discussions, workshops and panels was no matter what party you were representing, no matter whether you were representing Angular Water or Basildon Council, there was an acknowledgement that the only way infrastructure can improve in the East is through devolution, and through having those strong voices that a mayor brings, and having that strategic overview of what infrastructure should look like. We all know we've been fighting the battle for improvements on the A13, the A127, the A12 forever, and nothing has happened. It is hoped, and the vibe that was definitely there today, from the ministers that were there and the MPs that were there, that this is the only way forward for the East to get the infrastructure they need in order to see the economic growth that will come. And so it was really positive. And so I'm looking forward to what the next few years might bring for the East.
I'm glad you are excited. Very good. On the supplementary agenda, there are 3 recommendations. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. That is unanimous. Thank you, members. Thank you, officers. We will see you all again next time.